Hey, BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host, Peg. A little bit froggy, but I'm here. I couldn't let this week go by without doing another video. I did one earlier in the week, released it on Veterans Day, my interview with Bruce Henderson, author of Midnight Flyboys. I'll link the interview in the description box below. What a fantastic book. It published on Veterans Day. And if you love World War II history, especially in the run up and during and after D Day, and then our Flyboys, French resistance, special agents, if you love any of those topics, you've got to pick up his new book, Midnight Flyboys. But watch the interview. I think you're going to learn some things. I know I sure did. It was a fantastic book. But I wanted to also make another video this week highlighting more military history, just as another way of remembering and honoring our veterans. As you can see, I'm wearing my Support Those Who Serve hoodie. It's a issue that's very near and dear to my heart, being a veteran myself. Just want to honor those who, sacrifice years and more than just years of their lives. Those who have been in combat, those who have come back. I just wanted to just show you all the new military history books that have been arriving and that I want to share with you so you can put something on your radar. I challenge you. Here's a challenge to those of you who have never really sat down and tackled a book on military history. But you love our military. You love the sacrifice that men and women make every day to serve their country, which to me is not an outmoded idea. It's not cliche. It's not antiquated. It's a beautiful thing. Why don't you challenge yourself and read a book on military history? And I've got some suggestions for you here today in this stack. So first of all, apologies if I'm clearing my throat a lot. Getting over a cold and it's still lodging in my throat. I have moments where I'm very hoarse, very froggy. So I'll try to mute my microphone when I clear my throat. But let's start with, we're going to have a mix of books. I've got books here from mainstream publishers, and I've got books from Osprey, a very prominent military publishing company. Some Casemates as well. Casemate Publishers, one of my favorites, as you well know. I do frequent, book calls from them and show you all the new books that they're releasing. So this is a little bit of a mix. So let's start with this one. This is James Donovan. And this is his latest book. They sent me a finished copy, and I was so grateful. And they were hoping that I would, feature it for Veterans Day. And it's Veterans Day week still. It's Friday. But I figure better late than never. This is Nothing But Courage. This 82nd Airborne's daring D-Day mission and their heroic charge across the Lafayette Bridge. Again, by James Donovan. This is published by Caliber, which is, I think, Penguin Random House or Dutton Books. All right, so let me give you a little synopsis of what this is for. And you've probably seen it if you watch my channel, especially with my military history arrivals. You've probably seen this one in galley, but this is the finished product, and it is a beautiful book. I especially love the paratrooper badge there. All right, here we go. In June 1944, German and American forces converged on an insignificant bridge a few miles inland from the invasion beaches. If taken by the Nazis, the bridge might have gone down in history as the reason the Allies failed on D-Day. The narrow road over it was each side's conduit to victory. Continued Nazi control over the bridge near an old manoir, I don't know what like manor is, Manoir, manoir, known as Lafayette, one of only two bridges in the region capable of supporting tanks and other heavy armor, would allow the Germans to reinforce their defenses at Utah Beach, one of the 5 landing areas chosen for Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of Nazi-held Europe. Excuse me, that was the name of the operation. But because control of the bridge was also essential to moving U.S. troops inland and off the beach, it could not simply be destroyed. It had to be taken and held by the Allies. This was part of the formidable mission of the 82nd Airborne, whose lightly armed but superbly trained troopers had dropped behind and into German lines 5 hours before the seaborne assault on Utah. While blocking enemy reinforcements, they had to seize and secure several key points inland to prevent the Wehrmacht from reaching the beaches, including 2 bridges over the modest Merdere River and the key crossroads village of St. Mary-Église. Failure would give Hitler enough time and opportunity to build up the resources necessary to defeat the invasion and turn the tide for the Nazis. The village was taken early on D-Day, and the 82nd troops there withstood repeated attacks by much larger German forces. But the bridge at La Fère became a bloody 3-day standoff against tanks and artillery that culminated in a near-suicidal charge across it and the narrow 500-yard causeway beyond, straight into the teeth of a fierce German defense, ordered to hold it to the last man. Ooh. Yep. I haven't gotten a chance to dip my toes in this. Like I said, I was finishing up some other books for review and also for author interviews. But Nothing But Courage, fantastic. I've been on a kick lately with World War II aerial assaults, not only history but fiction as well. But more on that to come at the end of the episode. So this is out right now, Nothing But Courage by James Donovan. So it sounds very thrilling. So to those I've issued the challenge to read one military history book, maybe this one would be a good way to dip your toes in and get acquainted. All right, the next book, I also seen on this channel before in a galley form. This is a finished copy of The Boys in the Light, an extraordinary World War II story of survival, faith, and brotherhood by Nina Wilner. This is put out by Dutton Books. All right, I'll tell you a little bit about this. This is an epic true story of the triumph of good over evil. The soldiers of D Company could not believe their eyes as they came face to face with the human cost of Hitler's evil. 2 teenage boys, survivors of Auschwitz and Buchenwald, who had escaped. The Boys in the Light follows the parallel journeys of Company D and Eddie Wilner, the author's father, as they are caught on 2 sides of World War II. At 16, Eddie Wilner was among the millions of European Jews rounded up by Hitler's Nazis. He was forced into slave labor alongside his father and his best friend Mike, and spent the next 3 years of his life surviving the death camps, including Auschwitz. Meanwhile, in the United States, boys only a few years older than Eddie were joining the Army and heading toward their own precarious futures. Once farmers, factory workers, and coal miners, they were suddenly untested soldiers, thrust into the brutal conflicts of World War II. A company of 3rd Armored Division tankers, led by 23-year-old Elmer Hovland, quickly became battle-hardened and weary, constantly questioning whether the war was worth it. They got their answer when 2 emaciated boys stepped out of the woods with their tattooed arms raised. This extraordinary story is a testament to survival against all odds, the strength of the bonds forged during war, and the resilience of the human spirit. And I do love stories like that. This is another one it's long overdue that I get into it, but the fact that the author has such a personal connection to her subject, this is going to be really good. This is going to be great. I don't know if you could hear that. There was a child screaming in the distance. I got my window open. Don't mind the floaties. I've got the floating dust motes again. Gosh darn it. It hit 80. It hit 78 degrees here today in Denver on November 14th, if you can believe it. Don't know when we're going to get snow. Maybe never. But anyway, The Boys in the Light by Nina Wilner. Again, if you're new to military history, maybe, between Nothing But Courage and then this book could give you kind of this one will be more military history and tactical information, but thrilling. And I think this one's going to be definitely more emotional and kind of gritty, but compelling all the same. So we've got The Boys in the Light by Nina Wilner available now. Now I want to get into a few books that my good friends at the Naval Institute Press, um, they were kind enough to send me a few copies. Now, a couple of these are fiction, so again, it's military history, but there's also some fiction too. Just as another way to, experience or think about combat and what it was like. I think fiction can really help in that area more than just a dry textbook. Not, but definitely not all history written on battles is dry. But I think that fiction is also a great way to just get your brain around trying to imagine some of the situations that men and women in uniform have found themselves in. So this is a let's see here. We've got one. This is part of a series of books. Now I think this is the latest novel, so I might be jumping in. I might have to see if I can get the other two in this series. But this is called Punk's Force by Ward Carroll and Tony Peake. And this is the advanced reading copy. But I love like military fiction as well. I read a lot of it. This is put out by Naval Institute Press. This book is coming out. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I see. He just sent me the advance. It's already out. This one came out in June. But I'm happy to get the free copy. I don't care if it's uncorrected proof. I'll take a look at this. There are others in this series, I believe. Yes, this is the fourth novel in the series. So I'm kind of jumping in a little further on. I might see if I can get, I think they're having a sale right now at Naval Institute Press. Just type that in, Google that in, go to their page. I think every book in there, they're already like doing their new holiday sale, 50% off. So I might try to get the other books in the Punk series before I tap into number 4. But let me just read to you a little bit about this one. In the electrifying fourth novel of the Punks series, Admiral Punk Reichert faces a critical mission that could redefine naval warfare. With the future of the USS Gerald Ford and the entire aircraft carrier program hanging in the balance, Punk must prove that America's pride can defend itself against the most advanced hypersonic missile threats. If he fails, long-range bombers may replace carriers, and the Navy's legacy will be forever altered. Tasked with Operation Blue Aegis, Punk assembles a formidable team of former squad mates and brilliant engineers to deploy a cutting-edge directed energy weapon. Leveraging the latest in machine learning technology for battlefield supremacy. Yet as he battles bureaucratic obstacles and personal crises, including his wife's cancer diagnosis, he soon realizes that a far more sinister plot is unfolding. Enter Justin Wolfe, a ruthless tech magnate whose ambitions stretch from machine learning to supplying drones to terrorist groups. Wolfe's vendetta against the Navy drives him to orchestrate an elaborate scheme involving a traitor within Punk's ranks. With the stakes escalating, Wolfe will stop at nothing to see the Ford sunk, believing it will usher in a new area where technology reigns supreme over traditional military might. This is very timely. And just considering where we're at now with the evolution of warfare, tactical weapons, drone warfare, this is like the future, and this is what we're looking at. Punk's Force is a gripping tale of loyalty, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. As Punk navigates the storm of treachery and innovation, he learns that in the face of unprecedented threats, it is the human connection and teamwork that ultimately lead to victory. Join Punk and his allies in this thrilling installment, where every decision can mean the difference between survival and destruction, and the future of naval warfare hangs by a thread. Will they rise to the occasion and secure their legacy, or will they be lost to the tides of technology? The answer awaits in Punk's Force. Wow. And our authors here, Ward Carroll flew in F-14 Tomcats for 15 years after graduating from the U.S. Naval Academy. He was named Naval Institute Press Author of the Year in 2001 for his novel Punk's War. So that's the first book in the series, Punk's War. And is also the author of Punk's Fight and Punk's Wing. There you have it. Oh, he also has his own channel on YouTube. I think I subscribed to him. Anyway, check him out at Ward Carroll. And Tony Peake writes science fiction, fantasy, and RPG novels. Oh, okay. All right. He is the author of Inherit the Stars, the Eden Trilogy, and more works of speculative fiction. His interests include progressive thinking, storytelling in all mediums, and planetary exploration. Fabulous. All right. And there's tons of blurbs from, Stephen Kuntz, which I think yes, I have one of his books, or do I? No. I'm fixing, you haven't heard that one in a while. I'm fixing to pick up his book, The Dragon's Jaw, which is, it's nonfiction, and it's about this bridge that was so hard for the pilots in the Vietnam War to bomb. And I'm going to go off on a tangent because I just finished reading a book for review called The Warhead. Wow. That book was... I'll talk more about it later. I wrote a review of it for Publishers Weekly, and it should be... I think it is out already. I'll be posting that on my social media, but that book was so good. I can't even... Whew, so good. It was more than I expected. Anyway, but so Stephen Kuntz is blurbing this, so I want to check this one out as well. And this is a brand new book, actually. So this one, yeah, it came out in September, and I was lucky enough to get this one of the remaining ARCs, advanced review copy. And this is a gentleman who has written some other military techno thrillers, that I have not read yet. And this is Red Tide, a novel of the next Pacific War by M.P. Woodward. Let's see here. Let's give some props to Naval Institute Press. I'm going to read a little bit here. 40 years ago, Naval Institute Press, the book division of the U.S. Naval Institute, published Tom Clancy's The Hunt for Red October, sparking an entirely new genre in popular fiction, the military techno-thriller. The Naval Institute Press is shaking up the genre again, this time with the publication of Red Tide by New York Times bestselling author M.P. Woodward. Red Tide dramatizes the fusion of global business with geopolitics, the hazard posed by the Chinese naval buildup, and the nature of the U.S. Navy's role as the guarantor of a free sea. All right. Ooh, it received a starred review from Kirkus, and that we know is rare. It says here, from the marble halls of Washington to the green mountains of Taiwan to the warm waters of the South Pacific, Red Tide is the story of America at war as seen through the eyes of one courageous naval family. The U.S. Navy is stretched to the breaking point by European conflicts, relinquished bases, and aging ships. Tensions between China and the United States have never been higher as both nations compete for access to advanced semiconductor chips produced only in Taiwan. When two American carriers are recalled for maintenance, Beijing sees its opportunity. Through a daring seaborne commando raid, they steal the world's most important factory. But they don't stop there. In an attack reminiscent of Pearl Harbor, the Chinese draw first blood, crippling the U.S. fleet with devastating missile strikes while knocking American GPS, communications, and reconnaissance satellites out of orbit. A modernized Chinese fleet blockades Taiwan and seizes control of the Pacific sea lanes, throttling global commerce. These are all things that are very, very not out of the realm of possible. Okay, folks, so this is going to be some chilling reading. Rear Admiral Will Cole, outgoing operations officer of the Pacific Fleet, is on the brink of retirement. After a 30-year career, he's ready to settle down and fix a marriage strained by long sea deployments. Despite the obstacles, Will and Kelly Cole have raised their military brats well. Their oldest, Henry, flies F-18s. Their middle son, Jamie, is a merchant marine officer. Their daughter, Lucy, has a high-tech job lined up with a defense contractor. Will and Kelly are happy to let the next generation of the Fighting Coles take the helm of the American Sea Services. These best-laid plans are scrapped when war drums start beating. The Pacific Fleet commander sends Cole stateside to challenge a hardened political bureaucracy into getting serious about the threat to peace in the Pacific. Proven right when the missiles start flying, Cole's reward is an order to do the impossible. Destroy the Chinese fleet and retake Taiwan before it's too late. He'll risk everything in a final fleet amphibious action, his career, his navy, and his family. This looks fantastic. So I guess some of the other books M.P. Woodward has written, and I've seen them on like Book Outlet. He writes an espionage series called The Handler. And I've seen him interviewed on the Jack Carr. He's the author, I believe, of the Gray. It's not the Gray Man. Is it the? Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the series. It's a series that one of my viewers or a couple of you have recommended me to read, and I am going to be diving into some Jack Carr novels, just so you know. Anyway, I've seen M.P. Woodward interviewed on Jack Carr's own YouTube channel, which is also a fun channel to check out if you're into military thrillers and stuff like that. So, a piece of fiction for you here that you might want to consider. I know I cannot wait to read this. The next book that Naval Institute Press sent me, and this is a brand new book, hot off the presses. I'm very excited to read this one. This is called Scattered Far and Wide, the Naval Academy Class of 38 at War, by Justin Laborde. Naval Institute Press has just been kicking it up a gear with the books that are coming out. There's so many that are just look so good. So let me give you a little synopsis on this one. Scattered Far and Wide tells the war stories of U.S. Naval Academy midshipmen from the class of 1938. Obviously. Commissioned on the eve of World War II, they faced the trials of combat as new officers from the early days of American involvement and as ship captains, pilots in leadership positions, and submariners in charge by VJ Day. Tested as young leaders, they bore the new burden of command while at the fore of the Pacific War's largest and most pivotal campaigns. They felt the wind and spray in their faces and the percussion of ships' guns and depth charges at the critical moment in their lives and careers, making their experiences unusually compelling, heartbreaking, and most assuredly instructive. From Pearl Harbor through the end of the war, these men fought and struggled for survival as part of the U.S. Navy's Asiatic Fleet. In the early months of the conflict, they tried to stem the onslaught of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Some were captured and sent to brutal prisoner-of-war camps. Others took to the air from aircraft carriers as members of torpedo, bomber, and fighter squadrons during the battles of the Coral Sea and Midway. Later in the war, a number served aboard submarines, experiencing some of the most legendary patrols in the history of the silent service. Author Justin Laborde's grandfather, Alden Laborde, was a member of the class of 1938. I love these books that have a connection, a family connection. Upon his death, Justin obtained a 1938 edition of The Lucky Bag, the Naval Academy's yearbook. Reading the memoirs of Alden's classmates, Justin realized he was well placed to tell the fascinating and unreported story of this class's experiences in World War II. He spent 5 years gathering primary materials and researching the histories and wartime tales. The young men who graduated from the Naval Academy in 1938 left Annapolis on the eve of war and faced its perils around the world. In the process, these junior officers earned medals and fame, left legacies of heroism and loss, and sparked tales of renown and bravery that reverberate today. So, doesn't that sound fantastic? I love the fact that, he just discovered this material and he says, you know what, I'm going to write this book. And my grandfather was part of it. I love it. This is cool. We've got, each chapter is another subject, right? Another person we're looking at here. This is going to be great. So this is out right now from Naval Institute Press. I think it should be out. I got the finished copy, but probably one of their latest releases. So check out Naval Institute Press. And again, now's a great time because they're having their holiday sale, 50% off. and you just can't beat that. They have a very eclectic selection of books to choose from. And now we're going to hop into some Osprey titles. I think I probably have shown a couple of these before in galley mode, and I apologize. This probably will be a longer video. I know a lot of you like that. But yeah, let me just take a sip of something here. All right. Oh God, I'm glad that lid was on. I just tipped it over. Wow, Pearl Harbor. Let's get into some Pearl Harbor history. I have the pub sheet for this. Yes, I do. Now this came out. Oh, this is a brand new book, and I got the finished copy. This came out November 4th, and this is Pearl Harbor, Japan's Greatest Disaster by Mark E. Still, who also wrote Midway, and I think I do have that one. So, oh, it's getting dark out, and now my lighting is getting a little weird. Bear with me. There we go, so you can see that. This is a detailed re-examination of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. In this, the first comprehensive treatment of Pearl Harbor since the early 1990s. I wonder how the publicists and the people who write, how do they come to that conclusion that this is the first comprehensive treatment since the early 1990s? Could that be right? Respected Pacific War naval historian Mark E. Still traces the American preparations for an attack and the Japanese attack itself. Examining the role of the man behind the operation, Japanese Admiral Yamamoto, as well as the strengths and weaknesses of the plan, this book is a comprehensive narrative of Pearl Harbor along with an appreciation of its results. Okay. In common with many of the major campaigns of the Pacific War, many myths surround the Battle of Pearl Harbor, and amongst others, Mark explores and dismantles the myth of Yamamoto as a military genius. Listen to that. As well as the myth that the attack was brilliantly planned. Ooh, he's going to be taking that down. I love it. Long regarded as a brilliant strike, Mark argues in Pearl Harbor that the attack was instead a tactical disappointment, an operational failure, and a strategic disaster. Fantastic. Yes, Mark Still also wrote Lady Gulf, which I also have. I need to make sure I got this shelved next to his other two books. Just for his take alone on Yamamoto, that grabs me immediately. I definitely want to sink my teeth into this one. So, again, holidays are coming up, some time off. I'm going to be digging into my World War II books. All right, another brand new release from Osprey. Another book that also came out November 4th, about 10 days ago. So we go from Pearl Harbor, now we go to the air, and we go to the Luftwaffe this time. We're going to Defenders of the Reich, the Luftwaffe's War Against America's Bombers by Robert Forsyth. The defense of the Reich was a do-or-die campaign that saw the very best fighter pilots in the Luftwaffe attempt to defend German skies from increasingly large formations of RAF and U.S. Army Air Force medium and heavy bombers. Flying both piston engine and, eventually, the first jet engine fighters to see operational service, the Jagdflieger, that's the German name here. The Jagdflieger employed a wide range of weapons and tactics in an effort to blunt the Allied air offensive across Nazi Germany and occupied Europe. So Defenders of the Reich focuses on the story of the pilot, his aircraft, his weaponry, his training. There's a typo on this pub sheet. It says his draining. I know you meant to say training. His training, dangerous missions, and the Luftwaffe tactics against the U.S. Army Air Force and the RAF bombers from the summer of 1942 through to VE Day. They fought until they were all but obliterated, as U.S. Air Force and RAF fighters decimated their ranks in the air and targeted their airfields in devastating strafing attacks. Leading Luftwaffe historian Robert Forsyth uses German and Allied archival documents coupled with interviews with former Jagdwaffe pilots to tell the history of this last-ditch aerial campaign, from the perspective of the Luftwaffe. So that'll be interesting to read it from that perspective. This is going to be very meticulous, very small type here. Oi. Is my focus working? Good stuff, though. So, new book from Robert Forsyth. He is just, I've got a couple of other books by him as well that are all really good. And Defenders of the Reich, available now. Hang on one moment while I close my blinds. Okay. I want to give a free show out the window to everyone out there in the street watching. Yeah, you know, they line up to watch the history show. Right. Another book. We're going back to Caliber Books. I wanted to show you this one, and I love the cover. It's going to be a good one. All you aviation heads out there, you're going to love this one. This is Fighting 15, the Navy's top ace and the deadliest Hellcat squadron of the Pacific War, by Stephen L. Moore. From Caliber Books. Don't have the pub sheet with this one. Stephen L. Moore. He also wrote Strike of the Sailfish. I have that one. That's a good one. Right down there. Patton's Payback. All right. This looks great. All right. So Stephen L. Moore, tell us what your book is about here. The inspiring action-packed tale of VF-15, the elite group of U.S. Navy Top Gun pilots who destroyed more enemy planes in one combat tour than any other Pacific War carrier squadron. David McCampbell ended his tour of duty as the Navy's ace of aces, with 34 confirmed enemy planes shot down, and received the Medal of Honor. His Fighting 15 played a major part in bringing an end to the Pacific War. But when the squadron was commissioned in 1943, most of its men, some barely out of their teenage years, were completely new to aerial combat. A string of deadly crashes during training in their rugged new F-6F Hellcats led the men to be booted off their first carrier. With their commander fired and McCampbell installed in his place, the group's future looked bleak. But McCampbell transformed this ragged group of talented but disparate individuals into a selfless team of well-trained aviators, and by the time they formally entered the Pacific War with a series of daring island strikes, they were ready. Nicknamed Satan's Playmates, the squadron destroyed a record-setting 660 enemy planes across air and ground during 6 critical months of combat. 26 of the men would eventually become aces, ascending to an elite fraternity and immortalizing the fabled 15. Now, using previously unknown accounts from the aviators themselves, military historian Stephen L. Moore places readers in the heart of the action as McCampbell and his flying band of brothers battled the Imperial Japanese Navy and its formidable Zero fighters to the death. Ooh, that is going to be some good reading. Yeah, like I said, I've been on a binge lately, reading a lot about World War II pilots, and this is just yet another book. Why is my sorry for my focus? Wow, there we go. Don't focus on my face. My sickly face, my washed out pale face. Anyway, so. The Fighting 15. I think this one is out right now. I want to check this out from Caliber Books. Okay. Oh, I'm feeling the time crunch now. I've got so many more to show you. Now we're going to move to World War I. This is a big, beefy book. This is from Pen and Sword. So I got this through Casemate. This book, wow, well over 700 pages. This is a project. This is All the World at War, People and Places, 1914 to 1918 by James Charles Roy. Look at the size of that. Look at that. It's beefy. I like the opening. The end paper's getting aerial shots of, to figure out where that is. I can't read all of this because I'm running out of time here, but while battles and wars and the clash of civilizations are as old as time itself, There's little doubt that the conflagration of 1914 to 18 was something unique and terrifyingly new. There was not a corner of the globe that did not feel its effects, some more than others, but the scope of its impact on economies, populations, food supplies, the character of governments in general, and the day-to-day lives of numberless ordinary people were such as the world had never experienced nor expected. Let me jump down here a little further. The story of World War I has been told by many different writers, historians, and participants in many different ways, especially so before and during the centennial of its events that just concluded. All the World at War stands apart from many of these standard studies. It presents a familiar story from points of view that many readers might find surprising. Unexpected details, different perspectives, atypical and generally insightful observations from contemporaries, often obscure to modern readers who witnessed the events and personalities that pushed the war along from face to face. The narrative is chronologically arranged, beautifully written, with something new or intriguing on every page. This is a unique and finely paced account of the war to end all wars that didn't. So that's interesting. I like it. I like how each chapter is just a different topic. Like, we got like chapter 2, the Kaiser. Then we go into Schlieffen, the Schlieffen's plan, Sarajevo, Gallipoli, Verdun, the Great War at Sea. This is all great stuff. T.E. Lawrence. And there are a lot of inserts and maps. There's the Schlieffen plan, as we all know. Tons of inserts. Color. This is a beautiful book. Oh, my goodness. I can't wait to dip into this one. Kaiser Wilhelm, yeah. And we all know who that is at the bottom of this. Who could that be? We know. Anyway, this is just a big, beefy book. I think you could probably just dip in and read a chapter at a time. And probably just jump around if you wanted to, especially if you're well versed in World War I. And I am, so I could definitely just hop around. If I wanted to read a chapter on the Somme or Verdun or Gallipoli, or read about Berlin, I can do all these things. So it's fantastic. So this is available now from Pen and Sword Military. All the World at War, People and Places. Check it out. All right. I want to do a little, I want to mention this book because I read it and I did an interview with the author. We did a book on his, we did an interview when his book on the human faces of D-Day came out. But this is my good friend, Colonel Keith M. Nightingale, his book on the rescue attempt of the Iran hostages. Which he was part of the planning for that. They just released his book Phoenix Rising in a trade paperback, so it's definitely more affordable now. This is from Casemate Publishing, and so if you know about Casemate, it's like the paperbacks are definitely something you can afford. So I was really happy to see this come out in paperback. I have the hardcover. This is Phoenix Rising, From the Ashes of Desert One to the Rebirth of U.S. Special Operations. Again, by Colonel Keith M. Nightingale. Let's see here. I'll just tell you a little bit here. Phoenix Rising recounts the paradoxical birth of special operation forces through the prism of Operation Eagle Claw, the failed attempt to rescue 52 Americans held hostage in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. When terrorists captured the embassy on November 4th, 1979, the Joint Chiefs of Staff quickly realized that the U.S. lacked the military capability to launch a rescue. There was no precedent for the mission, a mission that came with extraordinary restrictions and required a unique force to take it on. With no existent command structure or budget, this force would have to be built from scratch in utmost secrecy and draw on every branch of the U.S. military. Keith Nightingale, then a major, was Deputy Operations Officer and the junior member of Joint Task Force Eagle Claw, commanded by Major General James Vaught. Based on Nightingale's detailed diary, Phoenix Rising vividly describes the personalities involved, the issues they faced, and the actions they took, from the conception of the operation to its hair-raising launch and execution. His historically significant post-analysis of Eagle Claw gives unparalleled insight into how a very dedicated group of people, from the Chief of Staff of the Army to lower-ranking personnel, subjugated personal ambition to grow the forces necessary to address the emerging terrorist threat, a threat which the majority of uniformed leadership and their political masters denied in 1979. The special operations capability of the United States today is the ultimate proof of their success. And this was a great book. It really takes you behind the scenes. I loved the colonel's just kind of replicated some of his diary entries. And it's like in the now, like as it's happening and his thinking, so it's like you're right there. It's like it's happening in real time. It definitely gave you an insight into how these types of operations come together. And in this case, it was definitely, was that a fly? Or they just flew across there? It was definitely one where, I don't want to say they were making it up as they went along, but they definitely, it's kind of like the Apollo 13 mission, right? Where all the engineers had to get together to solve a problem. When the lives of the astronauts were actually on the line out in space. This is kind of like that type of feeling. Like, how can we, they had to troubleshoot, they had to problem solve, and they had to think quickly and critically. And fascinating. This was a fascinating book. I highly recommend it. Phoenix Rising by Colonel Keith M. Nightingale from Casemate Publishing. Casemate Publishers. All right, let's go back in time a little bit. And let's talk about the evolution of the United States cavalry, shall we? This is from Frontline Books. And this came out earlier this year, I think. Yep. Check this out, guys. This is the Yellow Legs. The story of the United States Cavalry by Richard Wormser. Nice trade paperback. What we got here? The story of America's cavalry is extraordinarily rich in colorful and often flamboyant personalities and exciting action. Indeed, much of the early military history of the U.S. is dominated by the exploits of its horse soldiers. In this comprehensive and lively account, the author, who was himself an enthusiastic horseman, narrates the major events and characters of the U.S. cavalry's formative and, some might say, fruitful years. From the American Revolution and the exploits of men such as Henry Lighthorse Harry Lee and Francis Marion, the first of the guerrillas, the author follows on with Stephen Kearny, the father of the cavalry, whose dragoons went west to California on mules, and his nephew Philip, who organized the famed Gray Horse Troop of the Mexican War. Other famous names that feature in this narrative are those of Jonathan Stonewall Jackson, George Crook, who admired the Indians it was his duty to hunt down, and of course George Armstrong Custer, a United States Army officer and cavalry commander who served with distinction in the American Civil War. Custer is most commonly remembered for leading more than 200 of his men to their deaths in the Battle of the Little Bighorn in June 1876. Also known as Custer's Last Stand, Bighorn was part of the Black Hills War against a confederation of Plains Indians, including the Cheyenne and Dakota Sioux. It remains one of the most controversial battles in American history. Roosevelt's Rough Riders and Blackjack Pershing, who led his troops in an automobile, complete the narrative, one which is undoubtedly a saga of daring raids, of epic marches, and of grueling battles. As the author reveals, the story of the U.S. cavalry is also the story of the birth and growth of America itself. So we're going to get a little bit of Civil War history in here. We're going to get a little bit of American West and some of those battles out west, especially with Crook and Custer. That's your standard black and whites in there. But yeah, I figured, a book on the cavalry, heck yeah. We'll see how this one volume stands up. About 400 pages or so. So that is available right now. Sorry for my focus. My autofocus is acting funky. Let's see if we can charge through some of these books Let's go back to, we're going to go back to Vietnam for a minute. And this book is an oversized book, but it's beefy. Oof. Yeah, let's check this one out. This book, I have a soft spot lately for Vietnam histories. This is a new one on a battle. This is Hill 119, Defending a Reconnaissance Marines OP, Vietnam, 1969 to 70, by Colonel Michael O. Fallon. Forward by Bing West. Let's see. The Marines, let me see if I can read this. There's a lot going on here. The Marines and corpsmen of Delta Company, 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, 1st Marine Division, were surrounded by the North Vietnamese Army, or NVA, for 600 days in 1969 and 70 during the Vietnam War. Hill 119, a rise on a finger of land 28 kilometers south of Da Nang, provided Marines with an excellent 360-degree view of the region that was known as Indian Country. It was occupied as an observation post, OP, with the original mission to support Operation Taylor Common, Task Force Yankees push west into General Bin's, and this is the enemy's name, General Bin's base area 112. The OP produced immediate results with supporting arms inflicting casualties on the NVA. Based on its immediate and enduring success as a tactical obstacle for the NVA, the OP became a key piece in the defense of the Da Nang vital area. The Marines called supporting arms every day and every night. They rained fire down on the NVA and killed over 1,000 enemy fighters. They posed such a threat that General Bin assigned his elite T-89 Sapper Battalion to eliminate the Recon Marines on Hill 119. Throughout this period, the Recon Marines would undertake multiple adrenaline-filled patrols deep into enemy territory in small teams for 6 weeks, then serve for 2 weeks on the OP. Despite its danger, the Marines considered OP duty as a relaxing break. My goodness. This first full account of Hill 119, written by historian Michael Fallon, who served as reconnaissance patrol leader on Hill 119, is based upon first-hand accounts from the Recon Marines, carefully cross-referenced with patrol reports and command chronologies. It covers the Marines' experiences in the bush, on the hill, and in the rear. Okay. The role of battalion commanders with their changing tactics is discussed. The 6 officers impacted the battalion with their personalities as well as their planning and execution of the changing missions with the always changing enemy situation. From classic keyhole snoop and poop patrols to aggressive stingray patrols designed to inflict casualties. Wow. So this is going to be pretty, I think it's going to require the reader a sense of familiarity with some of these terms. This is probably for the more hardcore military history reader. But I'm looking forward to sampling it and seeing how much it can pull you in. But yeah, Hill 119. I hadn't even heard of that. But you can see it's like a larger, oversized book a bit. Like, say, compared to like one like this. Slightly larger. And this is from Casemate Publishers. This is out right now. Okay, so on the topic of Vietnam, then we have one that's more of a thoughtful piece that kind of says, hey, what was it like? Was it worth it? So along those lines, we have Why Vietnam? Reflections on the Effect of War by Margaret Colbert Brown. And I love seeing a woman's name on this book. I love seeing more women writing military history. That's fantastic. So this is a pen and sword book. Let's see here. The reasons behind the USA's involvement in Vietnam remain a subject of extensive debate. Initially, America supported the French until their defeat at Dien Bien Phu, which then shifted to backing the South Vietnamese government due to fears of communism spreading throughout Southeast Asia. Why Vietnam delves into the myriad reasons for U.S. involvement, examining theories that date back to 1918 when Woodrow Wilson ignored Ho Chi Minh's plea for independence at the Treaty of Versailles, through to Johnson's full commitment to the undeclared war, which restrained the military to a defensive role in protecting South Vietnam instead of an offensive one that would send troops across the DMZ into Laos and Cambodia. The questions of why the USA became involved, whether their involvement was justified, and if the war was ever winnable have been fiercely debated for over 50 years. This book seeks to address these whys by providing a thorough examination of all contributing factors, from presidential actions to foreign policy and the social and political climate of the war era. So that's great. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to have to see if she's written anything else. This Margaret Colbert Brown, I'm intrigued. It's got a little bit of everything in here. It's interesting how it's kind of written. Geography, people and culture, plants of Vietnam. I'm hearing howling wind. Daily life. This is going to be interesting. It's kind of a who, what, when, where, how, kind of gives you some insights into the country itself. So this is out right now from Pen and Sword, Why Vietnam. I'm looking forward to tapping into this one, actually. All right, and then we're going to go back to World War II. We'll end with a couple of books in this series of books that Casemate publishes called, it's in German, Die Wehrmacht im Kampf, which means with the army in battle, I would assume, if I am translating that correctly. Two new books in that series. We've got Die Wehrmacht im Kampf on Normandy, From Cotentin to Falaise, June-July 1944 by Friedrich Hein, translated by Lyndon Lyons. And then we have Arctic Front, The Advance of Mountain Corps Norway and Murmansk, 1941, by Wilhelm Hess, also translated by Lyndon Lyons. So it's a series of books. Die Wehrmacht im Kampf is a series originally edited by Hermann Tesk and published in German in the late 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s. Written by former members of the World War II German Army, the volumes provide valuable and historically significant information on the German Army's perspective of many crucial campaigns and battles. Translated into English, each volume is complemented by an introduction. Let's see, fabulous. So let's see here. So this volume on Normandy examines the Allied invasion from the perspective of the German, what is that number? I can't even translate. LXXI4, okay? I know in Roman, I don't know, is that 530th? Who knows? From the landings on D-Day through to the closing of the Falaise pocket. This account is particularly valuable because this Army Corps was the first German formation to respond to the Normandy landings. So this is going to go with my vastly growing D-Day collection. And I do like reading things also from the German perspective. It really kind of helps you fill it in. And then this other one, we've got Arctic Front. Deals with the advance of Germany's Mountain Corps Norway towards Murmansk in summer and autumn of 1941. Comprising 2nd and 3rd Mountain Divisions, the Mountain Corps advanced from occupied North Norway, assembled in the Patsamo Corridor in North Finland, and struck into Soviet territory with the objective of seizing Murmansk. All right, I have a couple of other books in this series, but these are welcome additions as well. And then we have a couple more here. We've got a new book from Casemate called Guadalcanal's Longest Fight. I just received this the other day, actually. Guadalcanal's Longest Fight, the pivotal battles of the Matanikau front by Dave R. Holland. Let's see here. The Matanikau battles proved to be the critical turning points in the land campaign for Guadalcanal, the campaign's longest and bloodiest ground fight. A 5-month conflict raged along the river and its basin. The real importance of this area has long remained unrecognized, yet the American and Japanese forces that fought over it knew that it was the key to the ultimate prize of Henderson Airfield. Let me just take a sip. In this mile-long bloody tug of war from the river across to the hills and ravines were fought 7 major battles and countless smaller skirmishes. While books have been published on the Guadalcanal campaign, none have concentrated on the pivotal battles of the Matanikau Basin. Extensively researched, this first in-depth study of these important battles, objectively showing all sides, fills in this crucial missing piece of the history of the Guadalcanal campaign. Fabulous. Guadalcanal battlefield guide Dave Holland spent 3 years walking the battlefields, researching and documenting what he found. His unparalleled knowledge of the ground enables him to take the reader along with the men on the ground. Using his investigative skills and military background, he provides a fresh, detailed, and often completely new view of the land campaign, establishing previously unknown facts and specifically illustrating their significance as the land campaign's turning points. Fabulous! He walked the ground. Yes, so this one's also going to go along with a couple of my other major books on Guadalcanal, which is one I really want to study in detail. I've been really into it since I watched some of the battle sequences from the Pacific, that HBO series, and Guadalcanal. Boy, that was hair raising. But this is out right now. Guadalcanal's Longest Fight. Pivotal Battles of the Matanikau Front by Dave R. Holland. And then I'll just close with this, more of a picture book, but wow, what a reference, what a source. It's not so much for reading as just you get to see so many cool pictures. Not cool, but you know what I mean. It's the series called After the Battle, and they do this then and now type of thing. But this is their one of their more recent ones I picked up was Hitler's Headquarters in the West, Then and Now. As you can see, After the Battle series by Jean-Paul Palud. And it's just loaded. It's just loaded with photographs, then and now. Then and now. I love stuff like that. So it's going to take you into the Berghof, right? Invasion of Poland. Let's see here. Just tons. Let me see if I can just flip through for you. So many photos. I mean, I just love it. Just history. I just love looking at the photos. So this is a wonderful resource for anyone who is a hardened World War II history fan. So, and this is from Pen and Sword Books, with great thanks to Casemate. So there you have it. Here are some military history titles you could consider. And just we think about our veterans, and this week, I'm going to try to get this video up tonight. It's going to take a little while to upload, so by the time you get it, it'll be Saturday. But I wanted to just say, look at these books, honor our veterans, thank a veteran, and I just wanted to say thank you for your service to our vets. Anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of some of these books, if they appeal to you. Check out my interview with Bruce Henderson on his brand new book, Midnight Flyboys. It is a thrilling read. You won't be able to put it down, and it's so beautifully written. It's like narrative nonfiction that you just can't stop reading. I'll link to that interview in the description box below. Please check it out. But until next time, guys, join me back here at the History Shelf. We have more a coming. So take care. Have a great weekend out there, guys. All right. Bye-bye.